Welcome to the first edition of Nahar Jito Bookathon presented in association with the Raisoni Foundation. In this session, we are going to explore the book, Your Dream Career, How to Choose the One That Fulfills You. Creating a dream career is anything but a dispiriting journey down a bumpy road. It is an exciting adventure into the unknown. Whether you are a university student, young professional, or budding entrepreneur, this book provides you the opportunity to experience career bliss and motivates you to take the necessary steps to get out of your comfort zone and onto a professional pathway aligned with your authentic self. A speaker for today, Neel Shah, is a sports management professional, educator, life coach, and published author. He has worked for 2 decades on the development of soccer in North America, Asia, and Europe. In his current position with India on Track, Shah runs the Global Institute of Sports Business. Prior to joining IoT, Shah was the CEO of DSK Shivajians and the Liverpool FC International Academy. Before DSK, Shah served as the director of Libero Sports, where he guided global soccer industry stakeholders with their investments. And prior to moving to India, Neel spent 7 years with New York-based Major League Soccer, serving as the league's director of fan development. He received his bachelor's degree in business economics with emphasis in sports management from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He then received his MBA in sports management from Seton Hall University, located in South Orange, New Jersey. Neel has written 2 books, Awakening the Blue Tigers, India's Quest for Football's Holy Grail, and Your Dream Career, How to Choose the One That Fulfills You. Our moderator for today, Dr. Ashutosh Arvindrao Patarkar, Dean at G.H. Raisoni Skill Tech University, Nagpur, is a distinguished academic and author with a PhD from Nagpur University. With over 2 decades of experience in the pharmaceutical industry and 18 years in academics, his expertise in strategic and marketing management. He supervises doctoral students and conducts training programs globally. Over to the moderator to take over the session.
Welcome to the first edition of the Nahar Jito Bookathon, presented in a Raisoni Foundation. This morning, your dream career, how to choose the one that fulfills you. You understand that securing a dream involves self-reflection and willingness to take focused steps to create a self-aligned pathway. This book provides you with the skills, clarity, and the inspiration you need to ensure a fulfilled, impactful, and successful professional life. And we have with us author Neel Shah, an experienced sports management professional, ICA certified life coach, educator, and author. He received his bachelor's degree in business economics with an emphasis in sports management from University of California, Santa Barbara, and MBA in sports management from Seton Hall University. And he's a regular TEDx speaker and serves as a visiting faculty and guest lecturer at several universities. Welcome, sir. It's a privilege and honor to be interacting with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh. Excited to talk about this topic with you.
Sir, so very interestingly, you had a very successful career in North America, Europe, Asia as well. Preceding to your move to India, you spent 7 years with the New York-based. Sir, what?
Yes. Yeah, I did have my dream job. I was really enjoying my life in New York. I was enjoying my time working with Major League Soccer. I had actually first traveled to India in 2006. I was 26 at the time, and it was my first experience in the country. And I really enjoyed the country, not just from the fact that, you know, it's a country of my parents' birthplace, where they spent their childhood, the country of my origin, but it was also incredible in terms of the depth of culture and the sporting possibilities there as well. I found myself transforming in a lot of ways, cliched, finding myself. And I came back to New York and I felt like I wanted to be back in India again, just to check it out. And I came back with 300 footballs and traveled around the country. And I recognized there's a lot of potential for football to grow. in India. There's a lot of passion for it, but maybe there's needs to be more structure for the ecosystem. And I had been working in professional football already in America, soccer, and as we call it here. And I just
Yes.
felt like, you know what, I don't want to just be on the outside watching football grow in India. I want to be part of the growth story. So I took the road less
Right.
traveled, and in 2009, I decided to move to India to work in professional football.
Right. Road less travel. Yes. And interestingly, you have been addressing it the way we address here in India as football, not soccer. Throughout
Yes.
the book, you have also mentioned that consistency of calling it football instead of calling it soccer.
Yes.
Sir, actually, as a teenager growing up in California, you dreamed about working with the Major League Soccer. Even before you turned 30, you became the director of division in New York. What process helped you plan your dream job?
Yeah. It was something that I think a lot of young people go through, and but they don't realize the kind of information that that is being told to them, or that's arising when they're younger. It's just kind of like they're almost compartmentalizing their life. When I was younger, I played a lot of football. I loved it. I was very involved with the sport. I was traveling a lot to play with my youth teams. And when I realized that I'm not going to be a professional athlete, I understood that I still need to find a way to be connected with this sport. I wanted to be around the sport of football as much as I could, and it was then pretty clear that okay, well, if I do want that, like, let me do some internships or let me do some volunteer work or something to go deeper into this space. And I started doing that, and I started realizing, oh, I'm not only enjoying this, but I'm pretty good at it as well. And if there's a way that I can help grow this sport in America, I feel like I would enjoy my work more and I'd be good at that. And around the same time of my, of turning 16 in 1996, Major League Soccer was established, the top professional soccer league or football league in America. And I felt like, wow, this is perfect. I will strive to get a job in this particular league in New York City, because I think this would just really make my career much more fulfilling and meaningful. So I went for it, and when I was 22 years old, I was able to get a job with MLS.
Yes, barely 22 years you got the job, and by the time you turn 30, you are a director there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a result of when you really love your work and you feel very proud and passionate and invested in what you're doing, your company you're with, the mission, vision of the organization, and you see yourself as part of a larger movement to help people in some way, shape, or form. All of a sudden, it's not that hard to do a good job in your at work because you're it's much more than work. It's a service offering.
Right. So it's a passion that truly help you.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. And you have followed a very unique process that made it extremely simple, apparently, of course, for you to land a new dream job, led to a successful graduate. However, also help any to pursue their behind this strategy. Can you please elaborate on this strategy?
Yes, it's something I talk a little bit about, or a lot about in the book, and it's something that I also, as you rightly said, I work with a lot of people using this approach or formula or strategy, as you may call it. And it's pretty simple, and it's not when I was going through it myself when I was younger, it wasn't so simple. I kind of learned it along the way, but it starts with our passion. I just mentioned that I love the sport of football. And I was pretty clear that this is something I wanted to be a part of. So it's identifying your passion first, then starting to look at what is your strength or superpower. Like, what is it that you're really good at that comes naturally to you, an ability. And I was always pretty good at, or really good, I felt like, getting people interested and excited about something that has made a difference in my life. So If something has impacted me in a positive way, I speak about it to many people. It becomes very comfortable for me to talk about it with other people. And it's important to start looking at your superpower. And then the third part is the purpose.
Yes.
Football had made such a difference in my life. I had grown up as a proper ABCD, American born confused AC, and my living in Southern California, it wasn't very easy to figure out where I fit in. Am I Indian? Am I American? How do I kind of feel accepted by the various communities that I'm around? And soccer or football was what gave me a lot of comfort, a lot of groundedness and self-awareness. So and it continued in the rest of my life, like childhood and in young adult years, was that football was really the driving force in my life, and it opened up a lot of doors for me. And I wanted more people to have that opportunity to grow through football. So that was kind of my purpose. And then the next part of it is the mission statement. Once you start looking at what your passion, your superpower, and your purpose, you start actually first before the mission statement, you look at the kind of jobs that are connected to those three elements or ingredients, as you might call them. And I started looking at those three, and I realized that getting a job with Major League Soccer, getting a job in marketing or community relations around football would be great for me. It's exactly the kind of work that would align with who I am and what I'm good at and what I want to contribute to the world. Then I start developing my mission statement. I want to communicate that to more people, express that to more people. And then finally, it's your baby steps. I outline very specific action items that I should take to actually make this vision of mine or dream of mine of creating a career in professional soccer into reality. And I followed that, and I've followed that with many other people now as well. And it seems to have a lot of positive benefits and results if you actually do this formula in the way that it's meant to be applied.
Right. So it is the passion, superpower, and purpose, which are very, very critical
Yes.
uh, for
Yes.
you to have a dream job. Right? Yeah, I mean, I use the word apparently with a purpose because I do remember Carl Lewis once saying that when I run like Carl Lewis, it looks very simple and rhythmic, but actually a lot of efforts go into that.
Very true.
That was
Very, very
1984
true.
Los Angeles Olympics. After that, he had that statement. Uh, so, key factors individuals should consider when trying to determine the dream career?
Yeah. I think that at first it's really important to understand that the average person works for about 100,000 hours in their lifetime, 1 lakh hours, and I think that's key because we don't realize how much of an impact or how much of our life is spent doing some sort of vocation. And the fact is, right now, Gallup, as a poll that came out in 2023, says that about 77% of the 1 billion person workforce around the world, they're not really enjoying their work. They're not engaged with their work, let's say. They're either loud quitting or quiet quitting. They're kind of checked out a little bit. And people don't realize the impact that that has on somebody's well-being because it's not just the 100,000 hours. It actually bleeds into other aspects of your life. If you don't love what you're doing for 10, 12, 14 hours a day each day, you're probably not going to wake up overly excited each day. You're probably not going to, come home with like the biggest smile on your face each time. And maybe there's other impact on your mental or physical or emotional well-being. Now flip it, if you're part of that 23% who really feels engaged with their work, who enjoys what they're doing, there's a lot more benefits beyond the 100,000 hours that you're working. You possibly, I felt in my career and other people who I work with who love their work, they usually feel a little bit more excited to wake up and get going on projects, get going to work, talk to your colleagues. You're coming back, you might be sharing a bit more. There's a little bit more of a positive aura around you because 10, 12, 14, whatever amount of hours a day is spent doing things you like, you're engaged with, you're good at. So I think one is understanding that. That's very, very key. Two is that it's really important to see that you're not stuck. You're like, we feel like maybe a bad job or a bad career pathway is like a jail. Um, it's not, it shouldn't be seen as a jail. You're not being forced to work in a particular way, you can always maneuver out of it, especially if you've invested in your education, you've invested in developing your skill sets. You have some tools, some merits to be able to start maybe paving a new path, designing a new pathway as well. So that's really important. Three is the fact that it's really important to ask yourself the hard questions and be willing to be honest about the answers. Meaning that how much money do I really want, or need? Forget about what you want. But how much do I really need? How big of a car? What kind of car? What kind of house? What kind of lifestyle do I really need? Forget about what I want, what I need, and start making decisions in your life that are based on what you really need versus what you want, and look at you need beyond just money. When you can think about your emotional well-being, your social well-being, your physical well-being, your spiritual well-being, how do you design your life so that what you're up to is what you're doing in the world is connected to that. And then finally, I would say that you it's important not to get too caught up in trends or get too influenced with other people's opinions on what you should do. I think that's in India, it's a really big issue. You have mothers and fathers and aunties and uncles and random people you meet on the train telling you how you should live your life, what age you should get married, when you should have a child, what sort of home when you should buy a home, what sort of investments you should make, and definitely what kind of job you should have, or what is a safe bet job. And people are generally they're afraid of what they don't know, and when they don't know something, they're going to try to get you back on a safer path. They're coming from love usually, or some version of love, but the reality is your inner voice is probably the most important one you got to listen to. And when it comes to your inner voice, it's important to not just listen to your head and your heart all the time, but listen to your body as well. Listen to what your body is telling you about things in the world, what really lights you up. And that's something I work with my clients on, and really listening to their inner voice and intuition versus getting too caught up into what society is telling you what to do.
Right. I mean, that's very, very important. Here in India, generally we call it "log kya kahenge."
Yes.
That's the one big issue. Most of the time when you're making a career choice or when you're making a decision which is going to impact your life. So that's very important. One can, change his career, and there are many challenges whenever one tries to change or move from one career to another. What are the generic challenges that transition from one career to another? Because you have also changed career, and you have also mentioned that from career, but generally, what are the major challenges?
Yes, and I have the book here, and by no means and I actually talk about Lok Kya Kahenge in the book as well, but by no means is the book, while the book is written in a very positive light, it's light and optimistic, it's also realistic. And it's not about, oh, well, just because you want a dream job, you just, really envision it, you're going to get it. Nothing, and everything is going to be smooth. It's nothing like that. There is a lot of effort, a lot of grit, a lot of a calculated risk, I'd call it.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. When you're changing career pathways from one to another path, there's going to be some potential challenges. One of the ones right off the bat is a potential decrease in income. Imagine if you've been working in medicine, or from your field pharmaceuticals, or from you're in finance, or you're in law, or whatever else it might be, even general marketing. You might be making a particular salary, an income, and now you want to get into something maybe a little less traditional, little more passion focused, like music or sport or acting, whatever it might be. There is a great possibility that you might not be able to just meet the same income or increase the income. You might have to go down. And those are right off the bat, you have to ask yourself, okay, am I able to do this? Is this going to be okay with my family? Is this going to be okay with myself? How much do we really need? and that's important right away. The second thing is that you're it's something I talk about in the book. It's fear. And now when you talk about fear, there's going to be two types of fear connected to somebody changing career pathways. One is fear of the unknown, fear of the unknown. We're also, if I'm sitting in say finance, and all of a sudden I think I want to go create a career in sports management, I honestly, like, even if people tell you about sports management, you don't know what it's going to be like out there. You know what finance is like, but you don't know what that is like. And so that's scary. I mean, that fear is a little bit, it can bring a little butterflies in your stomach, some anxiety, and you have to be ready to address that fear. The second type of fear is called fear of not being known. Now imagine you've worked for many years in a field and people know you as that person. Okay, that's Neel. He's the IT expert. He's great. He's been at Infosys for 15 years. He's rising up the ladder. He's doing well over there. Now all of a sudden, Neel wants to go work in another field completely where he's not known at all. You lose your identity a bit. Your identity has been associated with a particular field, whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter. You're identified as that. Now you have to go somewhere else. That can be a big fear. And then the third thing is that a lot of times, if we're making decisions based on our head, we may not always, a challenge is you leave your career pathway and you go into something else and you don't like that either. And you're like, okay, well, I just left this thing and now I'm in this thing, but I'm not happy here. And that's why it's really important that we have baby steps, and we really do these things in a concerted, focused, calculated way. And I talk about it in the book. But the final thing I'd say for somebody who's thinking about having a career change, if it's like one day you wake up and you're like, I don't like my work, take some time before you make an impulsive decision. My book is not all about change things fast. But if it's many, many days or months or maybe years where you're like, hey, I don't see a light at the end of this tunnel. I'm not enjoying this work right now, and I don't see a situation where I'm going to enjoy this sort of work ever. Well, I feel like it's more risky to stay in that field rather than try something else. Because you work for over 100,000 hours or so in your lifetime, you might as well give yourself the best shot to enjoy that. So one of the things I do with my clients is I figure out with them what they've learned. Let's say, for example, you've been working in finance for the last 10 years and now you want to work in sports. Well, I would actually work with that individual to try to understand every skill they've learned, who's in their network, everything that they can now bring to the sports industry. Yeah, and that would then show that they're not starting from as a fresher in the sports industry. They might be able to offer something of real value in the sports industry based on what they've done for the last 10 years. And that's a good mentor, a good coach, a good friend that would be able to help somebody transition from one industry to another, especially if sports is like a business of sports. So there's a lot of business components in sport. You would be able to bring some of that into it as well.
Yes, that's very, very interesting. I mean, because when you say that there has to be a calculated risk and no impulsive decision, you have to think about how you can leverage your competencies acquired in the current job into the new one that you're contemplating getting into.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's a very important insight that you can leverage this from one career into the other one as well. What I want to know is that you have highlighted the importance of self-awareness. You also mentioned a little while earlier about the inner critic as well. And this inner critic plays a major role. So how can one quieten the inner critic?
Yes, and the inner critic is that voice in our head that's kind of telling us, no, don't try that, or I don't know if you're going to be good at this, or is this even worth it? And it's that voice that's not always the most positive and encouraging voice, unfortunately. It's a voice that can be, it's trying to keep you safe. It's connected to your ego, it's connected to that part of you that's saying, okay, just don't overdo it. Stay here, stay within our lane. We know this lane. We don't want to, and it has good intentions, but it can also not always be the most supportive when it comes to making big decision changes in your life, or even starting those changes, because it can give you a lot of reasons why it's not a good idea. So the first thing to recognize about the inner critic is that it's not going to go away. It's built into our systems. We all have one. Some are louder, some are quieter, some are more positive, some are less positive, but they're there. It's there. So just recognize that that voice is there. Two is recognize that its intentions are good. Its intention, let's not fight with our inner critic. Give it some love. So I'm going to give an example. If now, before I moved to India, so I was the director of fan development at Major League Soccer. I was 29 years old. I was doing extremely well financially. I was, in a good position within the sports industry in India and the US. And now I'm looking to resign and move to India and take a job in marketing and sports, but in a country that I don't know much about. And really, I didn't know how it was all going to turn out. Now, my inner critic was like, what are you doing? You're crazy. You're going to fail out there. No one's going to respect you. You're going to come back and people are going to laugh at you over here. And it was telling me, don't do this. Don't leave. And I had to just sit back and say, hey, look, inner critic, or I gave it a name actually. And I would just say, thank you. I understand what you're trying to do and I appreciate that. And but then I guess the key is to say that, let me just go test it out for a little while. I'm not gonna, if it doesn't work out, I'll come back and I promise you I'll be okay. But let me go test out India. And so the important part is to give your inner critic acknowledgement, but don't become dictated by the inner critic. And because if we give the inner critic's voice too much power, we probably won't make any major changes in our life that we initiate. Things can be initiated for us, sometimes whether we like it or not. But if we want to initiate something really major that's going to be more aligned with our higher self, we probably have to quiet the inner critic a little, or say, thank you, inner critic, but I'm going to keep going anyway. And what I've noticed that the more baby steps we take, the more we do, and the more the inner critic gets a little less loud. It says, okay, now I've flown to India. Now I've met a couple of people. Now I closed my first deal here. Now I spoke at a conference. Now I've, got invited to speak internationally about Indian sports. Now the inner critic doesn't have as much power, because it's like, it can't tell me that you're going to fail, because I'm showing it signs that I can actually do this along the way.
Yeah, that is important, because it's not going to go away. That's one thing is for certain. And you need to love it, but not let it dictate the things. That's right. So that's the way we can, so we can help quieten the inner critic here. But at the same time, you mentioned about the baby steps that one has to take. So how can one cultivate necessary skills for a dream career? Taking baby steps is fine. Then you have to have the necessary skills also for the dream career. So how one develops that?
Yeah. Skills are always going to be some general and some more specific, of course, based on kind of where you want to be in your life. But when I work with people, any of my clients or my students, one of the things I always talk about is what you mentioned earlier, self-awareness. And self-awareness is a term very commonly used this day and age. But what does it mean? Well, one of the things that it means right off the bat is just having the ability to stop every once in a while and check in with ourselves. Hey, what kind of people, what kind of environments, what kind of work, what kind of projects or tasks are making me feel good, like making me feel alive, making me feel happy, giving me energy, and which kind of people, which kind of environments, which kind of tasks are sucking my energy or making me maybe restless or frustrated. Each of us are living our lives. We're with ourselves, at least 16 to 18 to 19 waking hours a day. We should know ourselves. We should become PhDs about ourselves. And so it takes checking in and maybe doing some journaling, doing some, whatever exercises we need to do to be able to talk about what's coming up for us as we go through life. So that's right off the bat. That's one. Two is, I talked about it. Well, Two, I guess, I mean, this is another one, but it's just being honest. I talked about the importance of having the ability to ask yourself tough questions and being honest with the answers. We a lot of times we just want to be a little lazy sometimes and say, I don't know what I want to do. I just want to make money. I don't want to. And I realize that, yes, maybe some part of us doesn't know it and we just want to make money. Okay, fine. But, or we might say, you tell me what I should do. What do you think I should do? And you're like, this is your whole life. Like, how could you have somebody else who doesn't know you as well as you tell you what job you should do? So, it's really important to be able to ask ourselves questions and be willing to give ourselves honest answers. And number three is curiosity, is being open to learning along the way. That's another skill that I feel like curiosity. I'm constantly curious about myself and the world, and I'm learning a lot as I do this. And the fourth big one is patience. I think, and you've probably seen it, and I sound like an old man when I say this, but the younger generation is not patient at all. Like, and I see it with my students as well. You know, they finally get a job they love, and then within 6 months they're like, I want to leave. I want to go find something else. I said, how come? They said, I don't know. I'm just getting a little bored. And I said, no, just give it time. Give it time. You know, you can't, or they want to get the job at the Premier League or at, you know, the BCCI when they're 22 years old. And I said, no, build up to that. Take time. You know, develop some sense of self, some sense of the industry, some sense of, and then build towards that job rather than just immediately try to make it happen overnight or expect it to happen overnight. And that patience is really important. So I know a lot more of these are soft skills than maybe hard skills, but it's very important to do those four. Now, the fifth one is a bit more slight, hard, and soft, but communication. You might know internally, like, and this is for most industries. I can't say it for maybe some science-based or, you know, IT or whatever it might be, because it might be much more about how you can code or how you can do certain things that are beyond, you know, needing expression. But most industries, I found that if you can express yourself, you can communicate well, effectively about who you are, what you want to do in the world, and why you feel like you'd be good at it. You're gonna open up more doors than if you couldn't do that. And so I really stress on the importance of, one, knowing yourself, but two is being able to effectively express who you are and identify organizations out there in industries you want to work in, and be able to share how you feel like you can help them achieve their objectives. All you're doing is giving yourself a better shot of getting a job in the field that you want to work in, because you're putting it out there in the world. It's energetically going somewhere else, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's absolutely insightful, that you have to have the general skills, at the same time occupation specific skills as well, where you are planning to make your dream career. And communication, yes, probably that is the best thing to happen to mankind. When people even today say that computers are probably the best thing, but I feel that it is still the communication which is the most fundamental things for anybody to make career in any field. Then highlight is also about the learning and adaptability are critical for the career development. So what methods do you recommend to stay updated and adaptable in the professional journey?
Yeah, you know, relationships. You rightly said, the computers are out there. AI, you can get anything you possibly want right now in terms of information, and yet I can't stress the importance of relationships as much as, you know, there's no way I can express it as, you know, there's no words that can properly express the importance of relationships.
Yes.
Because when you're talking to people in the industry, and you're talking to people who are, you know, really involved in those fields that you want to work in, you're not only understanding about what's happening in the industry, but you're also getting a sense of the vibe of those individuals, the culture around those individuals. AI or others wouldn't be able to give you really a sense of culture, because culture is dynamic, it's alive, it's changing all the time. And so this day and age, it's less about doing functional work mostly. Like we're not kind of working in all manual labor jobs where we come in, we have a particular set of widgets we have to build, and then we leave. We are doing more dynamic work where and that work is gonna the feeling of joy and kind of comfort and excitement and enthusiasm in our work is very much impacted by the culture that we're with. So one of the things that's really important is understanding, just meeting people, talking to people, understanding which cultures, which individuals, which personality types really work with us. That's one. The second thing is it comes back to self-awareness, but I actually recommend that people take these personality tests. There's tests like the Clifton Strength Finder, or tests like the Berkman test, or the Enneagram, or many other of these assessments. And you're able to learn more about your type of personality. And then you can actually kind of see which environments also would work for you. What are your blind spots? Because a lot of times we don't realize the kind of wiring we have, and so the more we learn about ourselves, the more we're able to navigate different things as well. And then when it comes to adaptability as well, I mean, this is also connected in a lot of ways to self-awareness, but I really stress on the importance of these things like mindfulness, yoga, meditation, neuro-linguistic programming, nonviolent communication, but especially with mindfulness, yoga, meditation. Again, we live in a very dynamic world. We want to develop our ability to have emotional regulation, to not get too rattled and reactive to what the world is throwing at us. And with my students at our Sports Management Institute, one of the things I really stress on is spending as much time as we can in the program helping our students develop a sense of awareness, self-awareness, and mindfulness, tapping into mindfulness, because when they go into the Indian sports industry or the global sports industry, it's not always the person who knows the most about sports who's going to be successful. It's a person who can really stay calm and grounded in any environment and be able to still be productive and effective, using the knowledge and network and skill sets that they have. And if you're very high-strung, hot-headed, you're reacting to everything, you expect people to move to your beat of your drum, you're probably not going to make it very far in our industry. We're now looking for more people who are level-headed, focused, and able to keep consistency and persistence to get the job done, versus and be a good person in the process, versus just being the asshole that maybe decades ago could have worked out more in the sports industry.
Yes, I mean, you precisely pointed out the cultural factors which are influencing the behavior of people, and adaptability is necessary because the culture has been shifting.
Yeah.
In certain cases, maybe we have cultural shocks, but most of the time the culture is shifting. So we need to be adaptable to that. And NLP, I'm very, it's like a wow moment that, yeah, NLP is there even in the sports as well. And you need to work with neuro-linguistic programming, adaptability there. Yes, very, very insightful, sir. So, sir, as I mentioned earlier, as a teenager, you had a dream job and eventually you got it. Now, what is your advice to the youngsters, maybe a student, professional, or even a budding entrepreneur, to experience a career bliss? As you said, you need to enjoy it also. So, what is your advice to them?
Yes. I would say that the most important thing is to start getting your feet on the ground, getting your hands dirty, as you might say. Volunteering, interning. Like we can't just sit behind a computer and Google search our way to figuring out what we want to do in our life. That's one part of it. But the reality is that the kind of self-reflection questions and self-reflection we need to do to figure out what is our passion, what is our purpose, what is our superpower, is not going to be figured out just alone in a dark room. It's going to be figured out in action usually, or reflecting after, post action. So, if you're thinking, some part of you feels like, hey, you know what, I really like, I really like music and I want to be something part of the music industry, we'll go to a festival or go to a record studio or whatever it might be, but a record label, sorry, or a studio recording place. But try to like see what is the areas of the industry that are lighting you up, that are excited. Just do free work. If sports is your thing, then go volunteer for a local 5K or 10K or a sports festival going on, or organize a football league in your society. But just start getting your feet wet. Start understanding more about what is it about the sports industry or other industries that you like. So that's one, is just get out there, get in action. That's big. Two is start, as I said earlier, start meeting more people who work in those industries. Not only will give you information, but it'll also potentially open up doors to get a job as well, because once you start reaching out to people. Three is, this is a one I recommend a lot of my students to do, and only some take it on, and those who take it on do it well. But I say that if you're passionate about something, like I meet some people who say, I'm the most passionate Manchester United supporter, I'm the most passionate Mumbai Indians supporter, I love tennis, I just love Rafa Nadal, or I love this person. Great. And they say, I want to get a job in tennis, or I want to get a job in cricket, or I want to get a job in European football. Fantastic. But now take that passion and put it into something tangible, meaning that now maybe create a blog or a YouTube page or something that is actually, showcasing your passion and professionalism as well. Because anybody can say, whether you're 12 or 95, you can say, I'm the most passionate person about this sport or this brand or this league or whatever. But if you really want to, that doesn't mean you get a job in that. If you start putting it into something tangible. So now if you come to me and you say, I'm the most passionate Manchester United person, I love them. Well, now if you made a blog saying all of the ways that Manchester United could really build their brand better in India, or you talk about some of the things about football fandom that you really love. Well, all of a sudden I'm seeing something different than you just being a fan. I'm seeing you as somebody who has a potential to be in this industry as well. So that's something that I would recommend. And four, it would be look at opportunities to get some education in that field as well. It doesn't have to be always a post-grad program or something else. You can also do these online courses, but just do something so you can start getting some certification in that space, so you learn a little bit more about that as well. So basically, don't just talk about it, take some action. That's got it. That's the biggest advice I'd give to anybody in that space.
That is right. I mean, we have always been talking about management as a science and art also. So that's very important. You have to have the organized knowledge of that particular profession as well in order to make your career there.
Yes.
Sir, it's a big honor and privilege. I wish we can continue, but we are completely running out of the time now. You have a Nagpur Connect as well. So whenever you are in Nagpur, please let me know, because this is something that will be more valuable if I have your autograph on that.
Thank you.
That will add more value. So it was great interacting with you, sir. Lot of insight. You need to have a passion, superpower, purpose when you are looking forward to a dream career. Also, most important thing is start baby steps and be patient about the results. What you concept of house, that's really very, very insightful. It tells us that you have not only have to be patient, but then if you want to really enjoy your job, this is what you are required to do. And also about the hard questions that one has to ask and being honest about answering to those hard questions. So it was great interacting with you, sir. Looking forward to meeting you in person as well. And thank you very much for taking out your time. I know it's late evening then in California. So many thanks for your valuable time as well, sir, and looking forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashutosh. And I look forward to playing some tennis with you in Nagpur as well.
Sure, sir. That will be such a privilege. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir.